Shema Israel, Adonai Elohim, Adonai Echad. Toda Abba, Toda, Toda Abba, Toda, Toda Abba, Toda, Toda Abba, Toda, Toda Abba, Adonai, Toda Abba, Adonai, Toda Abba, Adonai, Toda Abba, Toda Abba, Toda Abba, Toda Abba, Adonai. Thank you, Lord, for another beautiful day. Thank you for another day to wake up to. Thank you, Lord, for every breath that you're giving me. Thank you, Lord, for every challenge with which you are challenging me. Thank you, Lord, for bestowing upon me this beautiful life, even though sometimes it does not feel beautiful, even though sometimes it does feel challenging, even though sometimes what was supposed to be beauty is nothing but a pail of chaos. And when that happens, we have all those strings of beauty muddled up into a total chaos. And I will show you what I've been working with and playing with. Of course, here, Princess Mangoline shown up, of course, because she comes, she sees me going on my knees, she says, "What's wrong with my daddy? What's wrong? Does he need help? Does he need help?" No, I'm doing a video. I don't need help, but thank you for praying with me. See, she prays with me. All right. So when I take, so when I take, so I don't scare the dog, I get up. So when I take the red part here, I see knots, and then all these other parts are tied into it. The gold, the silver, the other gold, the diamonds and the balls, and everything is just a pile of knots of chaos. But some of them I got loose and I hung them, well, a little chaotically, I admit, but quite beautifully too. When you imagine there will be the snow on it, and if not, then just that evergreen tree with all those gold and silver and dark red and shiny red and different shapes and different forms. And the reason I want to talk to you about is because I feel oftentimes that our life, when it's in disarray, it is in knots. It is tied up in all the knots. All the things that we know we should not do, and yet we are tied into doing them. We are so tied into doing them that instead of being orderly and putting things apart orderly and, just do as we should, we just throw them into the bag of our tricks over there and store them there just like I've stored these things. And then they tie up in knots. When I put them in the bag, they were not tied up in knots. But as I was carrying the bag, they started coming together and forming those unholy matrimonies and these friendships with do nots, should nots, would nots, could nots. And all these knots are not helpful at all. And in order to get order, we need to untie the knots. We need to undo the knots. And better yet, going forward, I'm going to put each of these little decoration items in their separate bags and keep them all together in one bag. That way the knots will not tie, and that means that those little pieces of decoration will be available when needed, as needed, without having to undo the chaos. Think about your life. Think about your do nots and should nots and ought not and must not, that you know you should not be doing, and yet somehow we end up doing them anyway. Is it convenience that we do it for? Short-sightedness? Is it laziness or carelessness, mindlessness? Probably it's a combination of all of these and then some. But what it mostly is it's unhelpfulness, it's not helpfulness. It's another knot tied into our life that we will have to undo later when we need it the least, when we have no time to spare, when it's going to be the most inconvenient. And the care that I didn't take properly doing things is going to come and wait for me later. We tend to get sad or even upset or even angry at these knots tying us down that we created ourselves. Where I grew up, when a child was doing something they ought not do, that would come back later and be an obstruction in their life, their parents would say, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing that. You are knitting your own whip. You're making your own whip." And it was saying basically, you are making knots that will form the whip that will hurt you. And that saying has some merit to it, because when we don't do things correctly, it will come and bite us where it hurts. Figuratively speaking, if we don't put enough care into every step of the way as we walk with the Lord, if we are careless, not caring and careful, when we are short-sighted instead of putting our trust in the Lord and casting our sight to the forward, not just to hear what's the next step, but also a little bit more of the path. We could be walking and it looks all wonderful until we walk into a brick wall. And I think that is also the lesson of today. If we don't want to end up in the thorns, we need to be caring and careful about our steps. And when we do meet all those knots, we should first ask ourselves, did I tie that knot in my life? And would I be not better off? Wouldn't it be better for me to let go of those knots and instead create beauty? Toda Abba Adonai, Toda Abba Adonai, Toda Abba Adonai, Toda Abba Adonai. Happy Hanukkah, and have a blessed Sunday rest. God bless you.